We have here Miss Naomi Hoff, who was part of the foundation staff of Concordia College, Toowoomba in 1946. And on behalf of Lutheran Education Australia and Concordia, I'd like to say welcome, Naomi. Thank you for your service to the Lutheran Church through schools. You were part of the foundation staff. How did people contact you? Were you called to work there? What happened in 1945 that you said, I'll go to Toowoomba?
Well, in 1945 I was teaching at Cambrai and expecting to go to a school at Loxton. So I left Cambrai, packed up from there. Then in January the Loxton school was closed and I was free. Right. So wondered just what the Lord had in store for me.
Yes.
And Toowoomba had no staff. Mm-hmm. So they heard of me and nobody contacted me but Dr. Hoopman, was he Dr. Hoopman? Anyway, the president of the church contacted my father. Would I be willing to go? Yes, I'd be willing to go.
So how did you get to Concordia from Emu Downs near Clare, 2 hours north of Adelaide in 1946, just after World War II?
Very interesting.
Yes.
Well, at short notice, and you had to book because all the troops were travelling or families of troops. So I couldn't get on the direct route. So I travelled from Adelaide, first of all had to get to Adelaide, and then by train to Tarawi at night, changed trains, went to Broken Hill, and there at Broken Hill I had to go from one station to another one in New South Wales.
Yes.
And then all day and night got to Sydney.
Yes, yes.
And I had a full day in Sydney alone, a little girl who hadn't too much experience of the world yet.
Yes, and you were 22.
I was 22.
And then you had to get from Sydney to Brisbane.
And had no way could I get on that train. I went to Wallangarra. Oh. And so there again, a change of gauge at Wallangarra, and then from Wallangarra up to Toowoomba.
Yes,
and they took me out to the college, and then I saw all this. The Altises were there, and
now that was Reverend Rudolph Altis, the first principal.
Yes.
Yes, and Mrs. Altis.
Yes, and their whole family. And they not their whole family. Their eldest son was a pastor up at Rockhampton by then.
Okay. Now he must have just arrived at some time about when you arrived, or a week or two earlier.
He would have been a bit earlier.
A bit earlier?
Yes, and so that he could organise a few things, but it was very, very difficult. Now,
so who was on the staff? There were only, from what I can see, 4 of you. Reverend Altis, yourself,
Evleski, and Miss Bay taught commercial subjects. Then we had someone teaching music as well.
Okay. Where did you teach?
Well, the senior classes, I think they called them the junior class that were going on at that time, and then the scholarship class.
Yes.
So the scholarship class, I think we used the sleep out of the newly constructed girls' place.
Girls' boarding house. Oh, right, but there was a double garage used, from what I've read.
Yes, but that would have been... Did they have 2 junior classes?
Right.
Junior 1 and 2.
Right.
So Evleski and Altis taught there.
So what were the biggest challenges arriving in Toowoomba, different state, brand new school? What were the most difficult challenges that you as a staff and you as a person faced?
Well, we had to look at the curriculum. We all came from the south and were only used to a curriculum from down here. And then suddenly the Queensland curriculum, which was different. Well, we pretty well just used the textbooks and went through them, which was norm in those days, even down here. So it wasn't easy, but we had great expectations. We heard all the time, we must have results. We must get results.
So it was academically focused even in 1946. Altus was saying those sorts of things.
No, outside people, the people who established it.
Oh, so the board or the
The
college
board,
council
yeah.
wanted results.
They wanted results.
So here's a photo of 4 of the original staff at Redlands.
Yes,
So that was the first formal staff photo taken.
probably.
And here is one, I would think, of the students assembled in a similar position. Any students, do you remember, from that time, or have you still had contact with any of those people?
Well, one of them, Naomi Clyden, has written to me regularly ever since.
Right. So where did these students come from in the original 46, 47 classes? They were mainly Toowoomba, Darling Downs students?
Mainly, yes, not too far away.
And they were boarders?
Well, Pastor Noak's daughter, I think, was the only day
So it was really a boarding school.
a boarding school for students.
Established. Right, and they were all Lutheran, or were there any non-Lutherans
Oh
in those
no,
first
all
2 years?
Lutherans.
All Lutherans.
All Lutherans that came there. Well, there was one family, yes, they certainly Lutherans. They were of Swiss origin,
Right,
Bengali,
right,
and he was a lovely boy.
right, right.
I mean, well, a lot of them had come from smaller schools,
Yes.
and really their education wasn't up to scratch, and we suddenly had to mould them all fit them into the grades that they required education and confirmation. And they certainly, in later years, I heard from some of them how they were thrilled with the good Christian foundation that they got at Concordia.
So I've got a receipt book here, a cash receipt book, Naomi. You would have been paid, I guess, church worker salary. How much do you think you were paid in 1946 or 1947?
I think it would have been about a 200 or up to 250 a year.
So that's $400 or $500 a year. That's good. So where did you live?
Oh, I lived in with the girls.
So you were also a girls' boarding supervisor or a house mother?
Yes, that was the idea. So
Right.
I lived down with the girls. But main supervision really came from the principal.
Sure.
Or he had the final.
So who looked after the boys? Ev Lesky?
Well, I guess the eldest is Andy Evleski.
Yeah,
It was shared responsibility.
So you were teaching
Sort of
during the day, supervising at night,
living with them
having
at night.
meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner with the boarders. So it was
Yeah.
a very close community.
Oh, yes, we lived everything done together.
Where did you go to church on a Sunday with the students?
Well, the bus took us to Redeemer.
Oh, of course, Redeemer, yes.
Yeah.
And so the students and the staff would all worship with the Redeemer congregation.
But one Sunday, I think we went to Cunningham's Gap.
Right.
Would that have been possible?
Is that correct?
Yeah.
That would be correct.
And we had outdoor service, and that was not approved of by the board.